Hi everybody, I'm Diana from Sew Outside the Box. Welcome to today's video tutorial. Let's sew up a really cute springtime mug rug, and we'll use some embroidery techniques along with our sewing machine. Let's get started. Okay, so today I'm going to be sewing up this cute little mug rug, and my paper pattern is actually reversed. So once I trace the shapes onto the fusible web, the pictures will be turned in the opposite direction. And the fusible web I'm using today is Heat and Bond Light. So I trace all my shapes onto the paper side of the Heat and Bond Light, and then I'll rough cut around the shapes, just leaving about 1/8 of an inch. And then for the heart shape, I'm going to use this fabric that I already have. It's pre-printed with hearts, and I'll just attach the fusible to the back of the fabric behind the heart. And then for the green grass section on the bottom, I'm just going to attach fusible to the whole length of this fabric, and then I'll just free cut the wavy line for the green grass. You can go ahead and trace that line if you feel more comfortable, but this is pretty simple, just to get the fusible attached and then cut from there. Okay, now once all your fabrics have been chosen, you just attach those shapes to the back side of the fabric. And now I'm using my sharp scissors to carefully cut around all the shapes. And then I'm just using my paper pattern to cut around the fabrics for my front and back pieces. And then I'm going to do the same with the fusible, but I'm only cutting one piece of fusible because I'm only going to apply fusible to the front piece of the fabric. And then use your hot iron starting from the middle to attach the fusible, and just remember that the fusible side has a little bit of rough or bumpy feel to it. And now I'm going to attach my green grass piece first, because I'm going to do a few quilting lines on the grass section and maybe even the sky section too. So this is pre-quilting, and then I'm going to add some applique pieces on top of this piece that's already been quilted. So we're doing this one in stages. Okay, so here I am at my machine, and I'm going to add a few quilting lines to this piece. And I have green thread in my machine. And on this project, I'm going to change up the thread quite a bit. I normally don't do that because it's very time consuming, but sometimes the effects are really cool and you're going to want to switch it up. So I'm using the outer edge of my foot as a guide, just to sew a straight stitch along the curvy edge of the grass. And I'm going to do 2 lines of that just to create a little effect within that grass piece. And now I'm using a scrap piece of fabric to practice a blanket stitch. And I encourage you to do this if your machine has other stitches other than straight stitch or zigzag. And I'm going to do this blanket stitch along the top edge. So I start with my needle just outside the top edge of the grass piece, and then I let it go, and you can see my machine working on doing the blanket stitch. And I had practiced with adjusting the stitch width and length in order to get it just how I wanted it to be. Okay, and now I have my machine threaded with blue thread, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other half. And again, I'm just using the edge of my foot as a guide to help me sew these curvy lines. Okay, and now that that quilting is done, I'm going to layer my applique pieces on top of that base. And you can follow along with your picture, and here's where you will see that the whole thing becomes reversed because of that fusible. So you just peel off the paper, and then you can place your shapes wherever you like them. And they're not glued down until we use the iron, so you can pick them up and move them around. And once the shapes are where you like them, just set the hot iron down on top of them. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the machine and I'm going to go around all the pieces. I'm going to change my thread color 2 more times. I'm going to use orange for the sun and I'm going to use red for the heart. And the other pieces, I'm not going to change the color even though I could. I'm going to use this cream colored thread that I think will blend in. And I'm going to do a blanket stitch around the sun bit and then I'm going to straight stitch everything else. Okay, so I've sewn around all the applique pieces and now I'm going to finish up with a little bit of hand sewing. I'm going to do 2 French knots for the eyes, the eye of the little duckling and the eye of the rabbit. And then I'm also going to use a back stitch to make some sun rays and the little duckling's feet. And if you don't know how to do a French knot, I do have a video on that. I'll link it below. And super fun, super easy, and we're just practicing a lot of different skills in this project. Okay, now I'm ready to finish up. I place my backing fabric down, right sides down, and I'll take it to the machine and I'll sew around with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, leave an opening on the bottom. Okay, and now trim those 4 corners, so trimming on the diagonal to take the bulk out of the corners. Trim all 4 corners, and then on 3 sides, not the opening side, I'll trim the seam allowance down to about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, I push the corners out, I use my iron to press, I turned the opening in on itself, and now I'll go around with a top stitch. And there you have it, it's all done. Thank you for watching this sewing video tutorial. Please remember to like and subscribe and come back next week for another great sewing video.